just some podcast media.
The thoughts and opinions expressed on Buried Pleasures are those of the host and the guest and do not represent any views of any organizations that we may volunteer for or be employed by. Listeners should be aware that there may, most likely, be profanity and discussions on topics that may require a little discretion. You have been warned.
I came from the mud. There's dirt on my hands. Strong like a tree. There's roots where I stand.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Buried Pleasures. I'm your host, PollyAnnamazing. This morning, we're going to talk about what's your pleasure. And my guest today, I'm going to let you introduce yourself. Good morning.
Morning. I go by Larry the Bearded Wonder, and I am from the internet, and I am a hedonist, amongst many other things. I'm a creative hedonist.
Larry, the creative hedonist? Do tell. I will say, in the few minutes that we've been talking this morning, you're definitely creative because we're talking about s'mores this morning.
Not just motherfucking gourmet s'mores.
Oh, yeah. The Reese peanut butter thins. You had me at Reese's, but talk to us about these.
No, you want to up your motherfucking s'mores game. Ditch the Hershey's chocolate bar. Replace that shit with like Reese's Thins or Ghirardelli squares. All sorts of like anything that's that like kind of thickness and size and has a sweet to it. That's you found something good there.
So continuing that sweetness, thickness, and what was that? And size. You were also just mentioning about what you're all about. Tell me, what do you call yourself also?
So you can Polly met me on Twitter under my Twitter name, the Pod Janitor, and I am a creative among other things as I run a network of podcasts and I can't seem to stop making them. I'm instead of the crazy cat lady, I'm just the crazy podcast person. I just seem to collect them because I keep making them and they don't fucking stop. I have a problem.
I don't know. I don't think being creative as a creator is a problem, right?
It is when it gets out of hand and it takes over everything else. Then it's a problem. Anything can be a problem if you do it too much. Which, speaking of creative, I found out 2 nights ago. I didn't get to tell you. Apparently, my wife is a fan of your stuff. She's come across your stuff on TikTok, I believe. So
nice. How sweet.
I told her. She goes, "Wait, I know that name."
My TikTok game is not up to par by any standard whatsoever. I just, I've been hitting up my children saying, "Hey, help your mom out." And they're like, "No, you're gross. You talk about sex stuff, Mom. We're not helping you."
I mean, she does too. She kind of floats in the kink talk realm, mostly on like bratting stuff. So
see, now for the folks out there that don't know what that is, what are you talking about?
She is a reasonably well-known brat channel on Kink Talk's little wing of TikTok there. So she talks a lot about ethical bratting and bratting humor and jokes and everything else that goes with. And
I like it. So bratting
is its own little subdivision of Kink Talk.
Talk to me about the bratting, because this is a whole nother topic.
No, that's one you should talk to her about.
If you want to know what bratting is, look it up. You have the internet right in your hand.
We have this neat little thing called Google in your pocket.
Google in your pocket. Who knew? Anyway, we'll save that topic for another day then.
Don't go pocket Googling in public. You get arrested for that.
It gives a whole new meaning to the pocket pull genre, doesn't it? So as a creative, you have all these shows under your belt. You're putting out all this content. What are you hoping to do with all your content? Why do you do what you do, sir?
This kind of came about as a whole bunch of things that I love kind of slamming together. I kind of was raised on video games from an early age because I grew up in a neighborhood with like no fucking kids or anybody to play with. So it was a lot of, what are the best ways to entertain oneself as a child? And then in high school, I got into radio and broadcast, and podcasting just kind of let me slam those two things together. And then I started kind of flexing the creative muscle even harder, not just on what to do with, a singular podcast, but making more and more of them and finding unique spins and niches in gaming podcasts, which is an already overcrowded market, but, kind of taking that joy and digging out little niche spins on things that haven't been done in there. At this point, my problem is I now have more ideas than I have people and time, which is why I'm sitting on a Google Doc of a dozen fucking show ideas looking for people to run them, because I don't have enough bandwidth to run all these ideas myself, including some of the more dark humor ones that you'll laugh at, but you'll feel bad that you laughed at it.
Okay. So that's what kind of guy you are. Button pusher. It's okay. I'm not mad at it.
Not so much a button pusher, just the, like I said, it's one of those where I like dark humor that makes you giggle, but makes you feel guilty for the fact that you giggled at it. I'll share one of these thoughts with you, and this will exemplify exactly what the fuck I mean. I'm still looking for somebody that wants to run this idea, but it's sitting in this Google Doc. I want to do an improv comedy podcast where every week our celebrity chef teaches you how to break down, prepare, cook, serve, and plate a different Pokemon every week. Because that's the dirty little secret of Pokemon. We all know they're fucking food, but we don't talk about the fact that they're fucking food. You call it cooking with Pokemon because it's just vague enough that you think you're going to hear a fun little quirky show about some guy cooking with his Pokemon pal. And no. We're eating the little fuckers.
Turning
it's funny, but you feel a little bad that you laughed at it because it's horrible too.
I really honestly, I'm thinking of just exactly how that would play out, and I think that that's lovely. But then my sense of humor is not the same as everybody else's either. So
that's your sense of humor. You need to go check out a podcast that's sadly done and over now called Fish Shark Marketing. It's that kind of dark humor.
All right. Fantastic. So you and I have been talking. You have a lot of ideas, obviously.
Clearly. And they're not all fit for public consumption, but I have them anyway.
How did you describe yourself as a hedonist? What was that?
What is it? A hedonistic creative?
Hedonistic creative. That's what it is. That's what it is right there. How does one become a hedonist creative, do you think?
It's where you just let your creativity go to the excesses of good taste and general welfare for your own well-being. It's honestly, as a podcaster, as a creative, it's something that's not really hard to do. I mean, the creative side in life and hedonism can intersect really, really easily, and it can be not great things if you're not careful and you don't know how to manage it, because those two things intersecting means that you love to create, and it's not hard to let that get out of hand to where it does damage to to your life around you, where that becomes a sole focus and you just overboard on it to the detriment of anything and everything else in your life.
You have to do things in moderation. That's what we say over here on Buried Pleasures. Moderation, moderation, moderation. But sometimes when something feels so good, you can't stop.
You just keep going and indulge yourself.
Indulging. And sometimes indulgence isn't so bad. But when it's an everyday, all day indulgence, it can be a little dangerous. So safety with your podcasting and hedonism is important. You got to make sure you do that safely and, with a lot of gentle, loving care.
I just realized if I look like I'm staring off into space, I'm not. My screen with you on it is here. My camera is here. So looking at you looks like I'm looking off to what the fucksville. It just occurred to me.
No worries. It's okay. This is a fun and creative show, and we can be looking. Look, you just have this moment when you're off to the side like a cherub. It's okay. Nobody cares. Hopefully, if they're listening via a podcast or watching on YouTube, either one, comment about it. If you love the way that Larry's looking to the side while he's talking mournfully about hedonism, please let me know. I'd love to hear it. By the way, it's really super early in the Pacific Northwest and he's already had lunch or something. So I'm just sitting over here trying to wake up. So it's just going to get even more raucous as we go along. I'm just sure of it. I just got to get... I have zero energy this morning. I don't know what's going on. Got to get my life together over here. So let's talk more about hedonism and about your pleasures. Larry, what's your pleasure, Larry?
Oh, like I said, hedonism generally takes into adult territory, but I know we talked about maybe digging into some of that in a different show. But no, I get very attached to the joy and the pleasure I get in creating and digging into, all the podcast stuff that I do with myself and with my friends and everything else. And I know that attachment actually has led to some unhealthy mental health habits as well and connections in my brain. And that's like I said, one of those things where you got to be careful of, because I do a whole network of shows and, I have a lot of fun doing it, but I also have that stereotypical and, I know you've been around the podcast circles too. So, and you've heard this where it's like, yeah, whatever you do, don't give a shit about your numbers. I do. And it's not healthy because I know for a fact, how big we are and are not. And I'm like, I've been doing this for 6 years now. It's like, this should be bigger than it is. And that kind of thing will leach into your brain.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I also work with a podcasting group and I got a message the other day like, hey, what can we do to grow your numbers? And I'm like, dude, I am so working on I'm working on it. And I am one of the most social people that you will ever run over ever in your life. I am absolutely a networker from way back. I'm networking phenom. It really is hard to grow your podcast because you don't know how to get to those people who want to hear what you're saying, again, you say you're carving out this niche market for yourself, right? And there are, if you look out there are thousands upon thousands of podcasts, millions actually, probably at this point. And, they come and go, they're here and there. And, you can talk about anything from building trains to building brains. That's the kind of thing that you do in podcasting. I happen to have this wonderful niche market that people want to know educational things about sexuality and that sort of thing. So that's kind of nice. But also there's some dirty, raunchy things that I get into with people as well. And there's some other things like music and dance and mountain climbing, you name it. I talk about it on my show because I want to know what makes people tick, what makes you feel pleasure. Just trying to dispel this whole myth that pleasure is only sexual, right? And just like you were saying, you love the hedonism side of yourself, but you also love this creative podcasting phenom giant that you are. You have all these podcasts, and that's a cool thing. So pleasure in the form of hedonism and podcasting is your forte. And and now that I know that your wife is bratting on the side, I can't wait to talk to her too. This is awesome. And, I talk to a lot of people who are on the fence about their own hedonisms, people that are just trying to dig into figuring out, okay, is it okay if I tell you that I think that it's really cool to do these things? And by these things, I mean like melting Reese's Thins on graham crackers and having delicious s'mores. No, what I'm talking about is people are at the point where we are recognizing that life is precious and it's short. And if you don't talk and tell people how you feel, nobody's ever going to know, and you're going to die and nobody's going to know. And why not, while we're all on this planet together, can we not have these wonderful relationships based on truth and honesty? Because that's a great thing. It's great to be able to trust people that you can actually use your own words to say how you feel, and you don't have to repeat or regurgitate what somebody else says. This is the future, right? We're living in this amazing future where right now, or present, we're living in the present, talking about the future. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean,
I'm from the future, Charlie.
That's right.
The future, Charlie. The future.
That's right. Oh my God, it's so funny. I haven't heard that in forever. Okay, but my point is we are capable of all these wonderful things. And to find like-minded people is what we need to do. And that's what it sounds like. You need to find more people who want to hear your content, who share that same interests or interesting line of thinking. Now, there are plenty of networks out there that are putting, you can have adult content networks. There's a lot of them. It's just finding the ones that you particularly fit into the best. Right. And so what are you doing to do that with your things, with your creativity? Are you
most of my networking and finding the other people to do those things with is probably coming from the wrong angle, but I hang in a lot of the podcast circles on Twitter, and I think that I love that circle of people. Actually, speaking of that circle of podcast people on Twitter and the future Charlie and internet royalty, hella dope shout out here. Jumped in a friend's weekly Twitter space Friday mornings, and I jumped in last Friday, and no shit, motherfucking Tazonde was sitting in that space.
Stop it.
Fucking Chocolate Rain himself. I'm like, no shit.
That's so cool. That's the cool thing about those Twitter spaces. I mean, like, I've really grown a huge podcasting following from Twitter spaces, because you get on there, you talk, you have, you can talk to anybody on there. Literally, obviously. Yeah. It's fantastic. What was the subject? What were you all talking about on there?
Oh, it was Jen's Friday morning cup of audio coffee Twitter space she does. And I love jumping in there. Jen's wonderful, and her spaces are fantastic, but it's just kind of a quick, how was your week? What are you doing this weekend thing? But I always get a kick out of her spaces. She always finds some cool motherfuckers in there. And speaking of those podcasting circles, it's kind of weird because I realized, because I started a project that I've put down, and I'm torn on whether or not to get back up and running again. I had to put it on pause over holiday because work schedule shit got out of hand. But it made me realize that there are like tiers of podcasters, and that most of the ones that make up like the active podcast community on Twitter are kind of the ones that haven't had like the big break yet. And then you've got, the next tier up, if they've had the big break, and then you've got like the fucking, giants that don't talk to us fucking plebeian motherfuckers. But I've had some communique with some of the ones that have had like the big break that are, kind of that middle tier where it's meaty and, there's traction, at least, even if it's not, majorly bringing in any kind of income or anything, but at least there's a respectable fucking consistent audience. And but I found out that like two of the shows that I listen to that are kind of in that category, found out that one of them was actually a big fan of the other, because I got to interview one, and was interviewing Dallas Taylor from 20,000 Hertz, which is also a fucking dope show for any like sciencey nerds out there that are audiophiles. He just does cool shit. But I found out that James Parkinson from Gameplay was actually listening in on Twitter Spaces to that interview, like incognito on his personal account. I'm like, no shit. So I love that dude too. He does awesome shit. That guy is like one of the classiest fucking podcasts you've ever listened to. I've told people, I'm like, if I was turning the radio dial on a Saturday morning and landed on NPR and heard that, it would not sound out of place. Like, he does really good stuff on gaming, but he does like real classy shit. I am not a classy motherfucker.
I'm not for sure that people would put me in the category of classy necessarily.
Oh, I'm definitely not classy. I've just got shit to say.
That's me. I just have degrees and things. I think that's the only reason why people talk to me is half the time. Oh, and the fact that for whatever reason, I don't understand this, but I'm just trying to figure it out. My name is Pollyanna. So I go by PollyAnnamazing, which has nothing to do with polyamory, but everyone asks me, oh, so you named your show after polyamory? No, my name is Pollyanna. Amazing. PollyAnnamazing. 2 L's for lots of love, not just one. Because if there were more than one of me, you wouldn't be able to take it. Just saying.
You're one of those like me. It's like, no, they broke the mold when they made me because nobody could handle more than one.
Correct.
Going to make the same mistake twice.
Yeah, right. Nobody's going to do that twice. Never. Oh my gosh. So let's get back to you and your pleasures and all that. This is really fun. I enjoyed the nice cerebral conversation with the double entendre all the time.
If you want more cerebral conversations about shit that's not actually important, come listen to our podcast on video games.
I did my first Discord the other day recording for a podcast, right? I did. I feel like I'm way up there compared to some of my other compadres that are not able to get on Discord and do that. and I swear to you, I really truly don't even know what I did other than click the link and got on the server. I really again, when you talk about servers and platforms and all these things, I'm just like, okay, yeah, okay. Just give me a link and let me click it and I will be on there. Just tell me where to be. I'll show up. But also I'm still like, hey, son, tell me, how do I do this Discord thing? How do I? And the guys from 69 Whiskey Podcast, which if you haven't listened to, they are fucking hilarious. The best
I've been listening to some Whiskey 7.
I just had them on. I haven't edited the show. I haven't edited that show. Off the chain. Those boys are a hot mess.
We're going to be doing some stuff, and not this coming weekend, but the following weekend. We were discussing the fact that because I was listening to one of their episodes, that I learned, much to my amazement, there is an orange flavored Jameson. I did not know this. I like Jameson.
Gosh.
It's like the only whiskey that sits with my stomach.
We were just talking about it. Yeah.
This shit gave me a fucking idea, and I'm like, dude, we're gonna fucking try this. We're just gonna review this as we record and bullshit for an hour.
Yeah, right. They'll drive to you. They love to go anywhere. They will. They'll drive to you.
Straight Jameson on the rocks, but instead of just regular ice, couple of big frozen ice cubes of orange juice with the pulp. So it starts out harsh straight Jameson. And the longer and the further you go into this and that OJ melts in, it levels it out, smooths it out, brings up the sweetness. So this drink changes as you go.
Oh my gosh. See, I can't do that. I can't bring up any more sweetness. I'm so sweet already. I'd probably give somebody diabetes immediately.
I have the beatus, and let me tell you, I got weird fucking beatus stories. Oh my God.
Oh gosh. Well, as I'm a medical professional, I am intrigued.
Okay, I'll give it to you. This is one of those fucking stories that sounds like it's internet, like Facebook clickbait bullshit. So the Facebook bullshit clickbait headline would read, "Genital piercing saves man's life."
Are we talking about Prince Albert or Jacob's Ladder? Which one?
PA. So my Prince Albert was the first thing I ever had done 10 years ago before Ink or any other PA. That's where I fucking started. And so some years
go big
ago,
or go home, right?
Right, basically. A number of years ago, I was having some issues, and I had what I thought was dead skin sloughing off the head of my fucking junk from irritation from an infection, because I changed out the jewelry in my PA. I figured something had gotten in there, and I was having to pee way too goddamn much. And I'm like, this may have backed up into a bladder infection. Well, I landed myself in the fucking ER for something wholly unrelated, right? And I asked the doc, I'm like, fuck it. Well, I got you here. Can I get you to take a look at something? And, the nurse all right, let's see it. And she goes, of course it's here, pee in the cup. So I pee in the cup, and then, she comes back about 45 minutes later, and I'm just kind of hanging out, laying in the bed in the ER, waiting for her to come back and tell me something. And she walks back in the room, with that whole, knock on the door frame thing and sticks her head in type deal. And I'm like, so what's up? You should be in a coma. Huh? Apparently, my type 2 had basically just kicked in and become a thing in my life, and I didn't know it yet. And I was right. I did have an infection that something had gotten in when I changed out the jewelry, but it wasn't dead skin sloughing off from the irritation. It was actually excess sucrose that my body wasn't processing anymore, that was secreting through the head because it was rushing extra blood down there to fucking handle the infection. And so what I ended up with was sugar dick, where I could stick my dick in your tea and make it sweet. But I wouldn't have known and found out and caught the diabetes had it not been for the piercing.
Well, there are, and I will attest to this. There are people that will come into the ER and they're just like, I just don't feel right. Please check me out, right? Like, look at me, tell me what's going on. And you find brain tumors, you find lung cancers, you find bladder tumor, like that's a true story. And most people end up in the ER because their primary care doctors don't listen to them when they are saying, "Yeah, I haven't felt good," and so that's their last ditch effort. And in the ER, they'll do all the labs on you, and you'll get all the results immediately. And that's what people end up doing. Healthcare, what do you do? But I am glad that you got that under control by the talks of our s'mores conversations. It's not as under control as it should be.
It is actually. I have apparently a very atypical diabetes. Basically, once they put me on meds for a little while and I kind of made some dietary adjustments, everything leveled out to the point where I had to go off the meds because they kept crashing my sugar. So I found that basically as long as I've changed my beverage drinking to all sugar-free, that I can keep eating most everything else kind of like I want within reason and moderation. And my levels in my A1C stay where they fucking should be. And my doc doesn't understand how or why, but it does. So he's like, I don't get how you fucking do it, but apparently.
Get it done. Get her done. That's right. I just turned way old just now. Get her done. Anyway.
Oh, God. We're not going there. No. That dude's only funny when somebody's writing him a script.
Oh, my gosh. I've never seen him live. Have you seen him live?
I've seen his stand-up and I've seen him in movies. He's funnier in movies than he is in his stand-up. Like, he's great as fucking Mater in Cars. He was actually funny, stupid funny, and by stupid, I mean, like, dumb funny. And, like, shit, like Health Inspector, I can't stand his fucking stand-up. To me, he's only funny when somebody's writing his material for him. But if somebody's writing his material for him, he can deliver it well. I mean, credit where credit is due.
That's awesome. So I'm glad your diabetes is under control. The fun things we talk about on Buried Pleasures, right? Listen, because no matter what, hedonism aside, you have to be healthy and safe. Regardless. And by the way, if you have diabetes and you don't take care of it, it can cause erectile dysfunction. I find that this is a very good point to make for men. Just like, again, I was on, I just was talking about 69 Whiskey podcasts, and there's a sound bite floating around on Twitter right now from that interview, to which I talk about, my basic point is to make is, do you read directions? What happens when you don't? Because we're all just floating through life, we're just winging it over here. We're all just winging it. We have no plans. We're just going. And if you definitely, let's say if you were washing dishes for whatever amount of time and you didn't notice it on the back of the bottle that it said, if you go over this amount of this soap in a certain period of time, it can cause you erectile dysfunction. Well, it kind of just sounds like on the clip that I'm saying erectile dysfunction is caused by dishwashing soap, basically. So in my mind, I'm thinking, Jesus, these people.
That goes in the highlight reel.
Right? Like, if you don't listen to it's just out of context, right? Because they just caught the last half of that conversation. And I'm like, oh gosh, how many people are going to reach out to me because they think I think that dish soap causes erectile dysfunction. It was a point I was making about men and reading directions, or not just men and, just like humans in general. We don't read directions. We just pick shit up and we do it because that's what we do. We figure it out because we can do that. But, I can't wait for that repercussion or that, what's going to come out about that. Because, geez, who knew?
You need to put that in a highlight reel promo clip for your show.
Totally. It was great. I just, it's really fun. Like, I don't go on other people's show very often because, well, obviously nobody asks me. Geez, no, I do. Like, I love to be on other people's shows because I love to talk. And I try to keep it entertaining or centered towards the audience of the people who are inviting me on their shows. Like, I'm not going to go on to Christian talk and talk about all of the, hedonistic, terrible sexual things that I do or have done, or, I don't need to purvey that there. I can just be the nice medical.
I mean, it's applicable if you're talking about like a fucking religious kink.
Totally. But not everybody has religious kinks.
Latex nuns and St. Andrew's crosses.
Oh my gosh. I love it. I love it. I love it. So, speaking of hedonism, let's dive a little deeper into your pleasure of hedonism. Tell me your definition of hedonism and how it rolls out for you.
A hedonist is somebody that, I'm trying to think of a good way to put this, that likes to let themselves indulge in their pleasures to the point of overindulgence or excess, because the pleasure is the end all be all, be it sex or anything else. One of the running jokes for years on Futurama was Hedonism Bot, who is basically just a spoof of fucking Roman emperor, laying on the couch just constantly eating and overindulging in fucking booze. And that's, I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little bit of a food hedonist. You give me something good and I just kind of want more until I redefine fat and happy. That's why I like one of my favorite things food wise is Sunday mornings. We got a place called Evil Check, and it's a little brew house here in town. And Sunday mornings they do hangover brunch, which is all you can eat small plates. And it's the one day of the week the head chef gets to fuck off and go totally off script and make whatever the hell he wants instead of just what's on the menu. And my God, this dude does some good stuff. And, we'll go, once or twice a month for hangover brunch, and you try a little bit of everything, but man, you lock in on like one or two things that you keep going back for. And there's just like plates and plates and plates full of this shit by the time you're done. You're like, I probably shouldn't have done that, but yeah, no, that was worth it.
I hear you. There are a few things, there are a handful of things on this planet that I will eat until I vomit, and then I would eat it again.
I've done that.
Totally. Chocolate pudding being one of those things. And I'm not talking about regular chocolate pudding. Don't let this gross you out. I like my mama Bertie used to make cooked chocolate pudding, like homemade, not like out of the box. Oh my God. And the weirdest thing about it is as it cools, it gets this skin on the top, right?
Yeah.
I can eat
pudding
that.
Skin is awesome.
And if you've never had it, I suggest you try it, because I'm telling you guys, there's something otherworldly about the feeling of that pudding skin in your mouth. And
That sounds a little adult too.
I know, right? It really does.
There's an episode titled Pudding Skin in Your Mouth.
That's fantastic. That might happen later. You never know. But yeah, those are that's the thing, is there's so many cool things about the sensations, right? The oral sensations, the tactile sensation, that the warmth, the cool, the whatever, right? The things that make the hair on the back of your neck stand up, that make you go, yes, that, that right there. That's what my definition of hedonism is. That, yes. It's an absolute yes. Yes for me. And I love, when you talk to people in the Twitterverse that we hang out in, and you talk to other podcasters, everybody's trying to figure out what sells, what's best, what can people get interested into the most. And it's always a head turner when you're talking about sexuality or anything to do with something that's a little more on the taboo side. Now, I don't go full on deep diving into, kinks and everybody has a podcast about something. And so what I try to do is to connect those people with my people and your people. And that way we can get our messages out and have this great network of people that you are able to say, oh, you want to know about BDSM? Let me call this guy. And let me give you their info. You can listen to their show. You want to know about, strippers? Let me hit you up with Pixie, got this. Yeah. So those are those kinds of things that, and because of the world that I live in as a medical provider, I can be in serious conversations, such as I do sex abuse chat talk with Rachel in the OC. Not exactly, the raunchy stuff that I do for fun. That's my serious, I gotta step it up. I can't be lewd and crude, because these are people who need my help in a different way.
So I was thinking about it, and I realized, and I mentioned it briefly before you hit the record button here. I actually ran into the intersection of hedonism and overindulgence to the point of detriment last weekend. This is not going the direction that anybody listening probably fucking thinks it's going, but we're going there. So I picked up a game on a recommendation from a buddy of mine, and popped it open on Saturday. Played hard for about an hour and a half and realized I had overdone it. He recommended me Pistol Whip for the Oculus. Playing in VR, standing in my room happily, jiving away on this thing. And man, I tell you what, the next day I was sore as a motherfucker. I was not ready for the paces that this fucking thing was going to put me through in an hour and a half. And it's not the first time it's happened either. The other one was my own fault. I was looking forward to this game, but was not expecting the muscle work that I was going to have to put in to play this son of a bitch. So I was playing Super Hot VR about a month and a half ago, and it did the same damn thing to me. It's a lot of like bending and stretching and flexing and everything. And I was like, oh shit, I hurt myself. I was not prepared for this.
You were not ready. I'm not ready yet.
I was not. Like, it's a lot of weird contorting for Super Hot. It just is.
I have not played that. Like I've done some VR games with my little nephews and that kind of thing. And I've definitely, I just got to see what's the Star Wars thing where you hit the blocks. You know what I'm talking about?
Beat Saber.
Beat Saber. Thank you.
That's one that like everybody knows.
Yeah, that's one that everybody knows. I know you've got your own niche market over there.
No, legit. Like, if you like Beat Saber, you will like Pistol Whip. I was kind of dissecting it the other day, and I'm aware that I'm about to explain video games with video games for a second here. But Pistol Whip is like 1 part Beat Saber, 1 part Super Hot VR, and 1 part House of the Dead on rails shooter. And it's all those things slammed together, and it's a great fucking time.
Well, I used to love to play House of the Dead, for sure.
Oh, God, I love fucking House of the Dead.
In VR, I think that would be.
Time Crisis, Ghost Squad. I loved fucking, like, on-rail light gun shooters. It was one of my favorite things in the arcades. I used to go to this arcade with an old roommate of mine years ago when we lived together out in Elkhart, Goshen area. And it was this laundromat, and he had one of the nicest arcades around that you would ever fucking see. And I mean, like, nice. Like, this dude kept all his shit in running order. You'd be hard pressed to find more than 3 machines in this whole huge building out of order on any given day, which is impressive because like arcade machine maintenance and upkeep is no small thing. But he had I've got pictures of it buried somewhere.
Well, you know what we like to do at Buried Pleasures? We like to dig up lots of things. So dig them up and I'll post that with the promo for this.
So he had this light gun game there that I had not seen or heard of before. I can't even remember the fucking name of it now, but it actually had a mode specifically intended for one person to run like both sides of the machine at the same time. So, like House of the Dead, you've got one gun. This was one of the first games that intentionally introduced like dual wielding to a light gun game. And it was a blast. Like, I just had a fat roll of fucking quarters going to town, like, and you'd play that for 45 minutes in a row, and you start feeling it, and you're like, God damn it. And I had a little bit of the same going with fucking Pistol Whip last weekend, because it does the same thing. It's a light gun game, so you're sitting there, you're holding it, but you realize, wait a minute, this is one-handed. I toss like the left-hand controller, and I'm sitting here supporting playing through, but man, it'll still work you though.
You're like walking around like Denzel Washington. Training to, like, I'm going to shoot you. No,
oh
anyway.
Man, you fucking get into it because they start popping out of everywhere, and it's just woohoo.
Obviously I'm not a gaming kind of gal. That's not my shtick, but I do, I reside with a professional gamer, weirdo husband who plays with his kid, right? So his kid is in a different state. So they play every day together. That's their dad and kid time, right? And so they play CS:GO. And I swear to you, my husband will come back like every night and sit on the couch, and he's like, man, like, I'm tired. Like, I need to take a nap. Well, your dopamine has just sparked up about 1 billion times. So I'm sure it's like you just ran through a bunch of, a marathon and you're shooting people and calm it down. But that is, there's a great correlation between that gameplay and the hedonistic, sexual part of our brains, that we love that leveling up. You love that dopamine burst, the oxytocin, that shit that you want it, and it makes you feel so good when you get it, but then you're fucking exhausted afterwards, right? Like, it's like, just need to chill for a minute, just relax, put my feet up, have some chocolate pudding with skin on top of it. I don't care.
I'll tell you what, there's a topic we can get into on future like kink centric podcasts, because one of the things that I love to do is chemical play. And people are like, what is, so brief preview for what'll probably be a future episode. I love playing with people's like endorphins and adrenaline and taking them through like, pleasure ecstasy to, like adrenaline excitement to fear pain, and playing with the chemical mix and the brain output of that, and watching the results of that rush through people's bodies.
Right. Well, it's a lot of times I hear people say, "Oh, I just want to get after it." Like, get into the juicy part of sex. Let's just do it. But it's the tease. It's the part that leads up to it. It's the taking you to that point and then bringing you back down, and then maybe shaking it up a little bit. And, that's how it's the long con for me. That's what I like to call it. Like, I like the long, relax. I want a day. I don't want to have an encounter. I want to have a day, right? Where I am just submersed in, up to my eyeballs and above, and just happy dopamine, sexuality, and feeling like, the day that the days you feel pretty, those days when you wake up and you feel really pretty and you're just like, I just want to, I want to have it acknowledged. I want to know that you find me attractive. I want to know that I'm about to absolutely change your existence on this planet with what I'm about to do, right? Those are the kinds of things that make me, I do show about pleasure and everybody else's pleasure, but that's one of those things for me that I'm like, that is the best for me. Could there be better? Sometimes maybe. Could there be worse? Sometimes maybe. But those days when you just are like in your own sexuality, you're feeling it, it, and the people around you recognize it and can play off of that. If you're partnered, if you're not, if you can find that other entity, whomever that may be, find it, because I'm telling you, those are the best days for me. I think that's important for people to realize, that you can have quick sex, and and some people like love that kind of stuff. They love to have a little quickie in the afternoon. It's nice for stress release and what have you. But sure, absolutely, and why not? Then that's the deal with video games too, right? Like that level up, got to level up. It's going to be great. I'm going to see flashy things and coins and whatever. It's going to be great.
Oh, there's been whole fucking TED Talks on how to like gamify your life and, take the productivity and essentially gamify it so that you get the dopamine hit out of like stupid mundane work shit and basic life shit to keep you going. It's totally a thing.
Totally. And you don't think of it in that way until you stop. And you, like, for myself, I'm always trying to find that bridge between how people are perceiving what you're saying, because not all of us have the same, we don't use the same terminology. You have your own lingo. I have mine. In the different worlds that everybody resides in, you have to have some kind of commonality, or it's like you're speaking a foreign language to each other. And doing that, it doesn't really matter what you're saying. You just have to learn to say it in a different way, or find somebody that can say, okay, now I know about sex and you know about video games, right? Now let's bridge the gap on how I can talk about sexuality and make it common with what you know about how good it feels to play video games, right?
I say you're essentially looking for intersex jargon, and my dad taught me at an early age, like, jargon gets a bad rap because jargon exists for a reason, because when you're in something niche, you need a word or a term to describe something very specific. And yeah, it seems meaningless to anybody outside of that, but inside of that, there's a very specific purpose that word exists.
I'm all full up of jargon. Like, I have medical jargon. I have mommy jargon. I have lady jargon. I have foul mouth ER nurse jargon. I have lots of things that now that I'm,
Do you speak Nurse Ratchet?
Right. People do out there, they speak Nurse Ratchet for sure. But also, can you speak to somebody who's uneducated and has no idea about what's going on with their body? And how the hell do you figure that one out, right? Like, so that's it. And I think, I can't wait to have your wife on because we're going to definitely talk about bratting.
There's a good chance you may have seen some of her stuff on TikTok if you've ever skimmed through any of the Kink Talk stuff.
You know what? I swear I try so hard not to sit for hours on end scrolling through TikTok trying to figure out why do I have to listen to the same song? And if you don't, if you walk away from your phone, if it's sitting down and you don't swipe up, or have the capability, you're listening to that loop or whatever that is for the next 2 minutes until you get back over to your phone. And it's maddening to me.
She loves TikTok. I can't fucking stand it. It is like wrath on my fucking brain because I've explained it to her. I'm like, no, this is the opposite of, repetitive, quick endorphin hits for me when you're scrolling TikTok, because all I hear is what my brain equates to somebody channel surfing through ads. Because nothing has an actual beginning or an end. It just starts and stops. That is not the same as a fucking beginning and an end. And it just sounds like somebody's fucking changing the channel and you have no control over the fucking remote. And you're just like, fucking pick something and stay there.
You know what? My whole entire existence, when anybody says, nobody's going to know. They're going to know. That whole thing from TikTok, I say it every day because eventually somebody says nobody's going to know, or, whatever. You hear that. That's a common thing that people say. And so now I can't stop hearing it when I hear that. It's maddening to me. Nobody's going to know. And I do it to my husband all the time. Nobody's going to know, honey. Nobody. He's like, yeah, they're going to know. And I know there's this whole, I don't know what this song is. It's Russian in origin, and apparently it's foul. And they put it behind a lot of TikTok videos. And all these people are talking about, my husband's learning Russian right now. So I'm like, tell me what this song's like. And he's like, no, just go away. Read it on the internet. You have Google in your pocket, bitch. That's right. Exactly what he says.
Google your pocket, motherfucker. Do some pocket Googling. A little bit of
pocket Googling. Oh my gosh, Larry, it's been great having you on. You're hilarious. You're hilarious. And if you guys have not listened to his stuff, you should jump out. We'll put all your links. But tell everybody where they can find you on the internets.
Let's see. The network Twitter account and the flagship show Twitter account are one and the same. It's World1_1 podcast. All the other shows have their own Twitter accounts as well. Phazon Labs is my fun creative outlet these days, because every week we pitch our idea for a new Metroid game that we'll never get to play, but it's fun anyways. That's find that at Phazon Labs. We've got I'd Play That for $1, which is a budget gaming podcast of rapid fire roundtable reviews of games that we got for $1 or less, and that's at Play for $1. But all the shows are in the same network RSS feed as well. So if you found one, you found them all. So I try and make it convenient and easy. There's other new stuff that's just started up. The wife's doing a show on the network called Mind Over Media, which is all about mental and emotional health and therapy and the like, as portrayed in movies, games, TV shows, music. She just launched off her first episode of her new monthly show, Noob Reviews. Go check that one out. But yeah, no, it's all in the same fucking feed. So
definitely. So Larry, it has absolutely been a pleasure talking
I know this
about
has been a little all over the place, off the rails, but at least it's been fucking fun.
That's how my brain works. I'm okay with it. I start out easy, just get a little gentle, a little hard, whatever. Let's we got to do what you got to do in the day. But it's really cool to hear you and to hear what your pleasure is. It's a pretty fantastic thing to be able to talk to people who are not afraid of their own pleasure. I love it. That makes me happy in my heart every time. every time. So I just want to remind everybody out there that you can find me, PollyAnnamazing, at buriedpleasures.com, Buried Pleasures on Facebook, Instagram, Buried Pleasures 1 on TikTok, and also on most and all the major podcasting platforms, I do believe. I don't know. I just send my stuff and they just put it up for me. I don't know what happened.
What's the podcast platform that you pump the hardest? I'm curious.
Honestly, what I do whenever I put up my shows, I use Libsyn as my feed, and I just like direct everybody to the podcast feed on my actual website. So that's where I get my most listens to, because, everybody, you have the people who absolutely hate Apple Podcasts. You have people who absolutely hate Spotify. So go figure out your own stuff. Figure it out.
Been a big fan of Good Pods.
I really, honestly, I just said that last night. I turned about 6 people onto Good Pods yesterday. I do love Good Pods. It's a great way to interact with other people and to know, I want to know what you're listening to. Like if you become, you share your friendships on Good Pods, you can see what other people are listening to, and they give you a nice little round table discussions on what's going on in those podcasts. I like that. I like the comments. I love to see what people are doing and what they're thinking about it. But also, let's just remember this, guys. If you do not like this show, please listen to another one. And also, if you do not like it, don't reach out to tell me. But if you love it, let me know. I don't need that negativity in my life.
See, you could just go the route that I used to go. I'm like, look, if you like the show, subscribe. And if you don't, forcibly subject somebody that you don't like to it.
Oh, there you go. Man. See, perspective. That's what we have over here at Buried Pleasures. Little perspective. Every time I'm going to start doing that too. Yeah. I don't need negativity. I just want positivity. And although creative people do sometimes need a little, hey, what you doing over there? You okay? Let them be creative. That's what I say. Be creative, love, be kind, and also have pleasure. Do it as much as you possibly can. Whatever that pleasure is, do it. Get after it. And it has been a pleasure speaking with you today, Larry. I appreciate you for coming on the show.
Thanks, even though it's up with shenanigans.
Early. It's so early. No, I know it's like
drink some coffee, biatch.
I don't drink coffee. I live in Seattle and I don't drink coffee. Who knew? You're like a pariah here if you don't drink coffee. Anyway, all right, guys, have a great day. Bye.
Just Some Podcast Media.